Hi, I'm Maloney and you're listening to the Her Sport Energia AIL Rugby Show, brought to you by Energia. Think of the possibilities. Welcome back to the Her Sport Energia AIL Rugby Show, brought to you by Energia. My name is Alanna, Cunnane, and as always I'm joined by Hannah Tyrrell, former Irish international. Can you believe it? We're nearly at the end here, Hannah.
Yeah, look, it's been a long season. Lots and lots of rugby's been played, but we're finally at the end and we've seen two clear top teams.
Definitely, as you say, two top teams emerging from the pack there. Railway Union and UL Bows to face off on Energia AIL Finals Day. It's going to be a double header with the men's in the Aviva Stadium on Sunday, April 28th. Be sure and get your tickets for that one. What do you think we can expect from the two of them, Hannah?
Well, I think we're going to have a fantastic game. If both teams bring performances that they're well capable of, I think it'll be a really competitive and physical game, and hopefully hugely exciting with the prospect of it being in the Aviva Stadium. But particularly Bows have been the standout team for the season, but Railway Union know how to win, and so just really looking forward to an exciting match.
It's quite funny, isn't it? We talked about it the last episode, but they play 16 games, these teams, and then at the end of it all comes down to one game. The drama, you couldn't get any better.
Yeah, look, I think that format, personally, I think I would like semi-finals, because just knockout rugby is so exciting. Yes, obviously we like to see with league formats, consistent teams being rewarded, and particularly if you had semi-finals, they'd get home advantage with that. But I just think knockout rugby, you could come in as the lowest ranked seeded team and go on to win, and it just brings a lot of excitement. Can teams cope under the pressure of having to perform in one 80-minute game? But no, really looking forward to it. It's been a brilliant season of rugby. A lot of players putting their hand up for international selection, a lot of teams showing their worth, and just another good season of rugby almost done.
Yeah, well, episode 8 coming your way here today. As Hannah mentioned there, we had a packed season of rugby, from the Energia AIL to the Plate, the Cup, the Celtic Challenge, and Ireland now on the horizon too. But it really kind of flew in when you think of it now, because it was such a impactful and action-packed season, Hannah. There was so much to talk about basically every week.
Yeah, and I think, at the start of the season for us, we were quite worried a little bit about the Energia AIL and what we were going to see across the season, because of so many players missing here and there due to WXV3, the Celtic Challenge and all the rest. But actually, it hasn't been perfect, and obviously it had its challenges here and there, players not being able to field sometimes, teams not being able to field sometimes, but for the most part it's actually given huge opportunities to maybe younger players who mightn't have got game time. It's given them plenty of opportunity to get some game time, and for teams to try and create a bit of depth in their squad.
Yeah, and you gave your pre-season picks in the first episode. We'll not go back over them.
No, I think I'm way off on all of them. So I suppose hindsight is a wonderful thing.
You got the top 4 spot on anyways. But that was the thing I was going to ask you. What do you think surprised you the most about the season overall?
Look, we'll get into it, I suppose, a little bit more. But it's very unusual to see a team go as well as they have and perform as consistently they have as UL Bows, and they deserve a lot of plaudits for that. Probably surprised a little bit that we didn't see a little bit more of a kick on from the likes of Suetonians and Wicklow. I was really hoping that one of those two could try break into the top 4, but yeah, overall there hasn't been any major surprises in terms of kind of team standings.
Yeah, all pleasant one anyways. Well, we have a look at the table there anyways. As I said, you had predicted the top 4 and you got those right anyways. UL Bows, Railway, Old Belvo and Blackrock, you had said. And not much separating them there. UL Bows on 72, Railway picking up 71, Old Belvo on 61 and Blackrock on 48. Then we move on to Suetonians, Ballincollig, Wicklow. Suetonians 27, Ballincollig 27. So very, very tight there between the two of them. Wicklow on 21, and then closing it out then Galwegians finishing on 19 points and Cook on 7. Just worth mentioning, I think, as well, obviously last year Cook finished without a point. They got 7 this time around. American improvement there, Hannah, and something to build on?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you need to try and take the positives from each season. And for Cook, they'll absolutely be disappointed to finish bottom of the table again, but absolutely they managed to get a win this year, which is brilliant. We've seen much better play from them overall. Probably just would like to see them a little bit more consistent, but they are the only club up in Ulster that are involved in the Energia AIL. I have to give them a bit of credit. They're doing a lot of work with their underage structures, so that will take time to bed in. So hopefully over the next couple of years we can see them start to steadily improve and start to climb the rankings.
In the same breath as well, we often talk about the top four, but Galwegians, Setonians, Ballincollig and Wicklow all very competitive there as well. You can just see how tight it was between all of them.
Yeah, I think Ballincollig would be probably the ones that are happiest with that per se. They probably would have liked to finish above Setonians there, but when you're on the same points, you can't really complain too much. But they've definitely seen a market improvement for them this year. Setonians and Wicklow really struggled with consistency. Setonians kind of missing a few big game players for a lot of the season. Obviously a new manager in this year, so really struggled with that, but still quite a good placing for them on the outset that they finished the season quite strongly.
And the last time we spoke was on March 13th, just before the Women's Six Nation was kicking off. We've had a lot happen since then. And just before we jump into the Energia AIL fixtures, we might touch over on Ireland for a second. So far, going okay, you could say. And then the weekend basically put a nice little cherry on top, a win over Wales. How would you assess Scott Beeman so far, Hannah?
It's been an up and down Six Nations for Ireland so far. Absolutely, the weekend was brilliant. Getting a win over Wales, fantastic, great for the confidence, breaking a 7-game losing streak. They hadn't won, I think it was since February of the 2022 season, which seems like a very long time away. Yes, they've had games in between, but for the Six Nations, we've always been fairly strong, competitive, particularly in the last kind of 10 years or so. So that's a big confidence booster, because probably players in that squad who got their first Six Nations win, even though they've been there a couple of years, to get a win the way they did against Wales, they fairly hammered them. Some really good standout players. Bevan Parson was really good. Aoife Wafer, incredible. I thought Eve Higgins was brilliant, but I had a lot of confidence going into it that we would be much improved going into the season, and we have been. I still think the France performance, while our defence was excellent, I was a little bit worried about our attack. Against Italy, I was quite disappointed because I think they should have won that game and won it quite comfortably, but unfortunately they failed to kind of execute an attack, made lots of chances, but just probably a lack of leadership and good decision making cost them a little bit. And Italy just had one or two moments of magic where they managed to nick that from us. But the performance they put in at the weekend solidified to me that the talent is there and the growth is there. Yes, it was a poor Wales side, but it was a Welsh side who have been on the up the last couple of years. So as I said, huge confidence booster. I think looking ahead to this England game this weekend, we know England are the best team in this competition. France have been good and are on course for a Grand Slam showdown with England, but they haven't hit the same heights as England this year. This, I hate to say it, is a foregone conclusion, but you can never say never. We still have a chance, but I think that Ireland should be targeting that Scotland match, because third place is up for grabs here now with that win, and if other results go our way, we can get that third place and qualify for the World Cup next year, which would be huge. So if I was Scott, I'd be not conceding to England per se, but I'd be kind of putting out a team that can do a decent job and maybe damage control or limitation, but really focusing on putting out the heavy hitters for Scotland next week, and seeing if we can get a performance, because that would be huge and be some turnaround from what we've had, particularly because we didn't qualify for the last World Cup.
Yeah, definitely, because it's been great to see the improvement, and especially when that's paying off now on the scoreboard, that's a good thing too. Big talking point obviously was the return of Clean Maloney back in the Ireland squad. Thoughts on that one, Hannah?
Loved it. I think social media ran with it the last few days. I think it's just been fantastic. Look, she's a wonderful player. She's been playing over in the Premier 15s for the last number of years and been a standout player, and it's great to see she's come back into form and is getting picked on it, and it was brilliant to see her come off the bench. I think it's been 4 or 5 years now since she's been involved, and she's you know, she's a brilliant thrower, and we've probably had our issues at line out time the last number of years. But not only that, she brings a wealth of leadership and experience. She's brilliant around the loose as well, and she's really, really aggressive, both in her ball carrying and in her tackles, and wants to just get stuck in. So I think that's kind of a bit of a nitty gritty kind of player that we really needed, that teeters on the edge a little bit. Yeah, it's great to have her back in. I think that gave a huge boost to some of those girls who would have watched her playing, you know, a couple of years ago for Ireland, and seeing what she can do. So it was a huge move by Scott, and I really liked that he brought her in, and she'll make a big difference to the squad.
Especially because, seeing as the last while, you know, Adele McMahon co-captain, and she knows her so well, and then even when she's talking about it in the media, you know, about Sam and the potential of a return, it was great to see it finally come off, because as you say, we need those experienced players. Absolutely.
Like, look, it is brilliant, all about bringing the youth and those inexperienced players, you know, the likes of Katie Corrigan in her first Six Nations campaign, and, you know, even Eva Wafer's so young and doesn't have that many caps under her belt. To have players who've been around for a very long time, who've been playing, you know, at the highest level, and, you know, they're not afraid to go out there and put on a performance and drag these youngsters with them. It's exactly what we need, that blend of you know, experience and youthfulness to get that magic, I suppose, like connections and all the rest to make things work. And just at the weekend, I think it showed, with having Tricky back in, and, you know, Sam Monaghan there and all was brilliant.
Definitely, and some Energia AIL representation in the squad there too. So a sign of the hard work paying off there, and hopefully we'll see some more of it. For now though, we'll jump into a review of the last fixtures since the last time we spoke, all things Energia AIL, that sealed the deal for UL Bows and Railway Union on their way to a place in the final. Now the big question was, the last time we spoke, would UL Bows go unbeaten throughout the Energia AIL? It didn't quite happen for them, Hannah.
No, and look, they'll be obviously disappointed in that. It would have been great for them if it did, and something to hold on to. But you know, they knew they were into the final. They got what they wanted at the end of the day. So you know, they can't be too upset or too disappointed. But look, either way, they've been this standout team, the most consistent team across the entire season, and you know, they were able to seal their place in the final with a couple of rounds to go, which is great for them, obviously, then, because they could, you know, leave out a few players if they wanted, or take a different approach, or try some tactics, and maybe get some mind games in.
Yeah, I was just about to say, would that play in psychologically then? Because obviously they're facing the team that they just lost to, let's say, in the final in a few weeks' time. Would that kind of have to be a factor, do you think?
I think it depends on how they approached it, you know, and the coaching ticket will kind of push that narrative on them that, look, that wasn't the one that we wanted to win. You know, UL Bows could have went into that game going, this isn't the one that we want to win. You know, we're more than likely going to meet these in the final in a couple of weeks, so we'll give it a go. If we don't win, it's no big deal. We've tried a few things, but we know that we have them. Like, they maybe didn't want to spoil their tactics or give anything away, so it really depends on the narrative. They also could have went in going, we want to win this, and put out a statement message and show that no matter what happens, we have you here and we'll get you in the final. And if that's the case and they lost, then you have the doubts kind of starting to creep in. Are we good enough? Do they have our number? All that sort of stuff. But knowing Fee Hayes, I'd say she had a few tricks up her sleeve, and there's a few things coming for this final in a couple of weeks.
Can't wait to see it. But just to recap, UL Bows running through the end of the season since we last spoke. As we mentioned, they finished on 72 points overall, just the 1 point ahead of Railway Union. So very close that way. March 19th, they played Ballincollig and won out 41-7. That Railway Union game was played on April 6th, and that was 43-22. So as Hannah mentioned, it'll be interesting to see what kind of way they went about that, and whether that was to the plan or the script, let's say. And then April 13th, they played Old Belvo 19-10. Their win there. Railway then, on the other hand, they'd be happy enough with that win, to say the least.
Yeah, look, obviously Railway weren't so assured of their place in the final in the last couple of rounds of the league, and so for them, they had a point to prove to go out and get the points that they needed and the wins they needed to make sure they were in that final, you know. And they obviously had big games against UL Bows and against Old Belvedere as well, and so they managed to get the points that they needed. You know, they managed to knock UL Bows off their undefeated run and all the rest, so they will take a lot of confidence going into that, knowing that, or thinking that they have what's needed to be able to beat UL Bows. And, you know, the big thing for Railway is that, well, obviously UL Bows, their history, their past is huge, and they've won a number of AIL titles a good few years ago. Railway have been there much more recently, and definitely have been, over the last couple of years, the most consistent team, probably winning a couple of titles. They know what it's like to win. They know what it's like to come through knockout games and be in those you know, pressure situations and finals. They'll be looking at last year and wanting, not quite revenge because it's not Blackrock, but they don't want to lose again, you know, and they're too used to winning. So it's sure to be an exciting game. But for them, it was about getting the wins that they needed, particularly over Old Belvedere, which was a huge game because, you know, that would have massive consequences on who finished second. But they managed to get the job done. Stephen Costello managed to get his team kind of geared up enough to get those results. And yeah, that's led us to the two finalists that we have.
As you touched on as well, big wins against big opposition. They took on Wicklow, winning 72-12, Old Belvo 34-18, UL Bows, as we mentioned, 43-22, and then Blackrock 17-12. So they didn't have an easy run in either.
No, absolutely not. You know, and any one of those games, they easily could have slipped up and changed things slightly or skewed it a little bit. I'm sure Old Belvedere would have been very happy had it been that case. But I think the most impressive thing about Railway is they probably haven't had a consistent 1 to 15. I don't think many teams have over the course of the season due to various competitions and otherwise, but in particular I've noticed Railway Union have had massive changes, and they've used a serious amount of players throughout the league, and for them to be able to still compete, score a ridiculous amount of tries. They have the most try bonuses from any team, and that's actually what was keeping them slightly ahead of Old Belvedere for most of the season. They've done fantastic work, and they play a really nice front foot attacking brand of rugby. Yeah, as I said, it's sure to be a cracker.
Yeah, it's interesting. Will we see that now in the final? But elsewhere, I just said we'd look at a few of the other games. It's going to look like I'm singling out Galwegians here. I'm not, but they were just involved in quite a lot of the close games, and a good few tight encounters over all of the games, really. So some of those results there for you. March 14th, Blackrock lost out to Setonians, which a lot of people probably wouldn't have expected, Hannah. Setonians played Galway then on March 30th, winning 22-19, very close as I mentioned. April 6th, Galwegians take on Wicklow. Wicklow won out by one singular point, 22-21. And then on April 13th, Cook lost out to Galwegians. Galwegians winning that one 19-12. So it really does show in any given day any of these teams could take points off each other, Hannah.
Yeah, and that's what I mentioned. I think consistency is so key, you know, across the league, that there's so many games to be played. If you can put in consistent performances, even to an extent in 60-70% of your games, you know, that can have a massive impact at the end of the league. And looking at the league tables, you know, you saw that Setonians and Ballincollig, like, they finished on the same points. It's just obviously their points difference keeps Setonians ahead of Ballincollig, and I think that just shows how close the games are. Even Galwegians, who I would say didn't have a great season by their own standards, I think they finished on 19 points, which is not really that far off when you think about it and add in potential try bonus points and all the rest. So yeah, there's not much to separate kind of the bottom, you know, teams in the Energia AIL. It's just some results go your way, the bounce for a rugby ball, and that can have massive impact on your league standings.
Yeah, it can literally be that close. Well, we have lots more to come for you just yet. We have an awards section coming up with Hannah. You'll have to get the picks out there. Quick break for you now, though. A trailer video for our Galwegians Energia AIL showcase. Stay with us here on the Hersport Energia AIL Rugby Show, brought to you by Energia.
Get up again and we fight for each other, okay? It's only 80 minutes. We go for the first 40, we regroup and we go again.
To be honest, I don't care about the score. I just want us to be ourselves. If there's a clear opportunity, go for it. Regions on 3, 1, 2, 3, Wickets!
So in celebration of the end of the season, we thought we'd take a look at some of the standout performers, and Hannah has selected her Energia AIL Team of the Season alongside her Young Player of the Year, Head Coach of the Year and Player of the Year selections. So was it tough marking all this down, Hannah?
Yeah, look, obviously, you know, over the course of the season, there's lots of players who stand out in some rounds. Some are much more consistent than others. You know, and there's so many players to choose from. I think the biggest problem for me was trying to pick players in the positions, or at least kind of the line or the role that they played in. I tried to really stick to that, but it was quite difficult at times because we had a couple of positions where 3 or 4 people were genuinely incredible. But obviously I couldn't fit them all in. So I have a team of the year that I picked. And again, this is my opinion. So, you know, I'm sure not everybody will agree with it. I'm not perfect, but I think that these guys put in really good performances. And then I have just a couple of people who I think kind of deserved honourable mentions, but that I just couldn't fit them in their required positions. So my front row was quite difficult because I think for me, I'm not an expert in the front row. I've never had to pack down the scrum in my life, so I very much understand that. But I think it's such an important part of a team, and a lot of the time the front row, there's a lot of dirty work that gets done that, you know, they don't always get the plaudits, they're not always scoring tries, you know, or whatever else, but they're doing what's necessary for other people to flourish. And so for me, I've gone with Ciara O'Dwyer in prop position, as well as Shannon Heaps. And then Beth Buttimer in the hooker position, who I think has come on leaps and bounds this year. Obviously got loads of game time in the Celtic Challenge Cup, and has been you know, just really, really thriving, and obviously hoping to move on and get those international honours. Second row, Faith Ovaweyu, I thought really, really young, promising prospect who definitely will, if keeps going the way she's going with that trajectory, will definitely wear an Irish jersey at some point down the line, and who better than to look up to in the likes of Dorothy Wall and obviously Sam Monaghan. Gillian Coombs, on the other hand, just a really, really consistent performer. One of those, not always in the highlights, not always, you know, doing the flash things, but just getting things done in a team that's not always probably, you know, at the top of the list for highlights and all the rest, or getting the right results. But, you know, I want to acknowledge her because I just think she does such great work there. And, you know, you can often overlook these. Back row was probably one of the most difficult positions for me to pick. I've gone with Lindsay Peat. I could have put her in the front row as well. I just think she, to be doing what she's doing still, is phenomenal, and she does it. She's so consistent with it. Play her in a number of positions. She scores a ridiculous amount of tries. Her aggression is unmatched, and her enthusiasm for the game, I think, is unmatched as well. And yeah, couldn't leave her out there. For me, at the number 7 position, I've gone for Leslie Ring. Again, kind of one of the most consistent performers for Old Belvedere. You know, she recently made her 100th appearance, which is massive, and just scores the odd try here and there, known for her tackling, and just, again, cheeky little grin, loves to be just a typical number 7 who loves to annoy people, basically. And then Chloe Pearce, number 8, you know, huge leader for UL Bows, and I think one of the big reasons why they're doing so well is their consistency of being able to have the same players in a squad, and she's one, obviously has the international honours, but drives that squad, loves a try, you know, and at the back of that pack is just a driving force. Also can play front row. For me, 9 and 10 were probably the most difficult positions to choose. I've gone with Abby Salter-Townsend in at number 9, and Nikki Cohy at 10. Putting Nikki Cohy at 10 pushes for me Kay Flannery out to 12. Slight tweak. I think she played there once or twice, but UL Bows, again, with their consistency. Abby's been great at 9. I know she hasn't always been available for them, but she's a great young player, really up and coming, and helps with that tempo, particularly when they lost Nicole Cronin, obviously at the start of the year, who can play 9 or 10. Nikki Coy's been running amok at 10 for Railway this season. I think she finished top point scorer, kicking over conversions because Railway were scoring for fun, but she also was involved in a handful of tries, and her kind of playmaking abilities out of hand and by kicking has been brilliant for them as well, and I don't think they play as well when she's not at 10 personally. Centre, as I said, I put Kay Flannery there. For me, best young and up and coming player that we have. Still a lot of growth to do there. Plays 10, which is quite a difficult position. Also plays a little bit at 12. Learning loads from her brother Jake, but was called into the wider Irish squad this year because of the performances that she put through with UL Bows, and it's brilliant for her to be able to play front foot football with a team that's consistently winning, so she's allowed to kind of enjoy herself a little bit. Outside of that, Maddie Agberg for Railway has been scoring tries for fun. Who needs wingers when you have her in the centre partnerships? But yeah, I think she's top try scorer with 19 tries, I think it is, this season. She's been incredible for me, doing it all, but to have someone of her ability to finish was fantastic. And then the back three, very difficult for me. I thought a fullback, Emma Tilley, has been lighting it up for All Belvedere. I know she's played a little bit centre, a little bit on the wing, but just back three in general for her. She is a slip of a thing, who's lightning fast, has great footwork, and as I said, scoring tries for fun, scored 5 tries, I think it was, in one game there a couple of weeks ago. Chisholm Aguero, couldn't leave her out. Again, another one scoring tries for fun. Will definitely play for Ireland in the future if she keeps it up. And on the other wing, it was very difficult to choose for me, but I went with Katie Corrigan because of her form at the start of the season. I know she's been away an awful lot with the Six Nations, most recently obviously getting her first couple of tries. But I just think when she played, she was phenomenal. It was just so hard to leave her out that it was definitely deserving of a spot there for me. Notable mentions, Gemma Farrow for All Belvedere, kind of playing that 9-10 role, has been brilliant. Ruth Campbell as well, I mentioned her, probably hasn't played consistently enough for Belvo to be in my team of the year, but I love her potential and I think she's going to be brilliant. Niamh Byrne, Railway captain, has been brilliant for them. Oh, she is consistent, I think, for them over the years. Kelly McCormick from Cook has been brilliant as a centre for them, in a very challenging season. She's always been one to step up and kind of try to lead the line. Beth Roberts for Wicklow, done really, really well. Orla Dixon from Galwegians, again, another kind of long-standing stalwart who leads them very, very well and tries to bring through those younger players. Michelle O'Driscoll from Ballincollig, who got on the score sheet loads this year, and she'll only be delighted with that. And then for Suttonians, I think they were massively boosted by the return of Lauren Farrell McCabe. Kind of that 9-10 role again brings massive tempo for them. I'd love to obviously put them all on the team, but they couldn't all fit, so they're kind of my honourable mentions per se.
Woo!
Again, it's not perfect, it's my opinion. People may disagree with me, but based on what I've seen over the season, that was the best way I could fit in a team of 15 players that would make a pretty decent side and challenge a couple of teams.
And quite a lot of them we seem to mention most weeks, so I think that's fairly consistent that way. And on that as well, the opinion thing, if you have a different opinion, please give us your team below. We'd love to see that. And see the different picks, because I'm sure it's a tough job, so fair play to Hannah. Everyone would have different opinions on that one, so let's see yours below if you have any ones that differ. But as you say, I suppose one of the things to consider when you are picking the team of the year, Hannah, is that sort of mix of the players available, because at different stages throughout the season, it's different teams who excel because of the likes of the Celtic Challenge, or be it Irish Camp or whatever it is. It's really hard to pick off consistency levels there.
Absolutely. There's just so many players that, like Katie Corrigan, who played so much of the season like pre-Christmas and was doing so well, and then obviously was very involved with Ireland post-Christmas, and so therefore obviously doesn't get to be involved in the Energia AIL as much, and that happened across the board for various different reasons to various different teams. I'd say the one team that was least affected when you consider the talent that they have would have been obviously UL Bows, and we can see that they've definitely taken advantage of that in the AIL League, and Fee Hayes has done a great job there with them. But yeah, it was really difficult because you had some really key and informed players playing really well, and then they missed the next 5 or 6 rounds. So it was really hard for me to try and pick a team where there was consistency nearly almost across the board and not just a flash on the pan kind of moment here or there.
I think it says a lot as well that there's such a spread of the teams across both the team and your honourable mentions as well.
Yeah, look, I think, you don't have to be on a winning team or one of the top 2 teams to be one of the best players, in the league. And I think that's the way we would want it, because otherwise you're going to have a league that is dominated by 1 or 2 teams and the rest is not really a competition. We want these standards to be upped across the board regardless of what team it is, and then for there to be competitive matches every single week for every single team, and you're only going to get that with consistency across teams and players, you know, staying at teams. If it was, you're only going to get recognised for either awards or international honours if you're at a particular team. The structures of the AIL wouldn't work, and we don't want it that way. So it's nice to see a spread, and those players are deserved mentions in my eyes.
Definitely. Well, plenty to debate there. Let's see your teams below in the comments. Moving on then, Young Player of the Year. This was definitely an area with a lot of competition, because each week we were talking about, I'd say, 5 or 6 young players that were standing out to us on every occasion.
Absolutely. And like, you know, at the start of the year, I wouldn't probably have picked this player because I didn't know too much about them. It's just that they burst on the scene, and I think that's lovely, the way we see it. In my mind, I would have had a completely different player, but like people must know, I've talked about her enough. I've gone for Kay Flannery, but it was a really tough one. It was a really tight one. Like special mentions, obviously, to Chisholm Aguero, who had another incredible season, and then again for the performances pre-Christmas, I think Katie Corrigan definitely deserves to be up there. But for me, Kay Flannery, just playing in such a difficult position, doing such a good job, you know, being that conductor, that orchestrator of a team that is consistently winning, you know, and putting in commendable performances, you know, not just sitting in and winning with them, but driving them to win. And her kicking and stuff has been incredible. You know, and Ireland has been crying out for a really consistent 10 for a very long time. And, you know, down the line, it will be brilliant to see her compete for that jersey.
For sure. Other award spots to look at, Head Coach of the Year. This will be an interesting one.
Yeah, no, look, again, I was trying not to make these UL dominated, but Fee Hayes has been the standout coach. You know, I think she obviously gained loads of experience with Ballincollig, but came into her old club UL Bows, had brilliant connections, and I think that's what makes her so good. Yes, she has incredible knowledge of the game herself from playing and all the coaching work that she has done, but it's the relationship she also creates with players. It creates a huge network of trust. She has really good communication, and she managed to bring on this group of players who are already good. Like, you know, UL Bows have always been in the top 4, but she's brought them to another level this year, and I think it's brilliant for her. Like, she's using all that experience from her own Ireland connections, that been involved with Munster coaching and stuff like that, and this team have excelled under her. Yes, they've obviously been helped a little bit by having consistency around what players are available, but you know, she has used those young guns really, really well, blended them with those mix of experience like Claude O'Halloran and Chloe Pearce and even Fee Reedy and stuff like that, but manages to get the best out of her players on a consistent basis. And I think that's a really good sign of a good coach. Like,
we were actually down in UL Bows not too long ago, chatting with Fiona and many more of them, so that'll be coming your way, similar to the Galwegians Energia AIL showcase very soon. Finally then, the big one, Player of the Year, Hannah.
Yeah, look, obviously huge amount of players and a huge pool to choose from, and again, so many players doing well at different points throughout the season, but for me, again, Maddie Agberg for Railway has just been brilliant. Again, like, not just for her try scoring abilities, just the way she's able to kind of help shape and run this team. Niamh Byrne at centre, like, there's a great partnership there when you have Nikki Cohy at 10, Niamh Byrne at 12, and then Maddie Agberg at 13. But just how fluid she is with her movement, she's well able to play, she's well able to pass and let someone else go, but her defence was quite good as well. And for me, she was the standout performer in this year's league, and I'm really hoping she can have a pretty good performance and back up my opinion in the final next week.
I'm sure she will. Well, there are Hannah's picks. Fair play to her, a big bowl of us for getting that done. If you want to let us know your picks in the comments, please feel free to do so. That was a great way to top off and recap a fantastic season, which was of course action packed. It's not over yet though. We do have a final coming your way, as we mentioned at the top of the show. UL Bows against Railway coming your way on April 28th. We will be back previewing that next week, so stay tuned for that. Hannah, we'll have your input there as well as interviews with the teams themselves, so keep an eye out for that. For now though, my thanks to Hannah for joining us, and we'll see you next week on the Her Sport Energia AIL show, brought to you by Energia.